Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sacrament Weekly In-Depth. I'm your host, Steel Deal, and today I'm being joined by our CEO, Mr. Lay and our Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Kraive. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. We keep telling him to stop calling us Mister.
So for this week of In-Depth, we're essentially going to be talking about the donation rewards for KickStarter. These are essentially the rewards that we are giving to people who donate a specific amount towards our upcoming Kickstarter campaign, which is going to be March 16th, 2016. So for our first setup, we're going to be essentially, what we want to let you guys know though, no matter what, on our website, you can sign up for our newsletter, which will pretty much allow you to get any updates that we make to the site at all times. And all you have to do is just provide us an email address, and that will cost you absolutely nothing, because we want to ensure that everyone knows what we're talking about, knows what we're posting to the website. And so, for our first amount, the minimum that will be set for our Kickstarter will be $1. And what that pretty much will get you is our thanks and appreciation for your donation, as any amount means a lot to us. We'll go up to our next tier, which is $10. And at this point, you're going to be able to get the email updates about the game progress, this is not related to the site updates, but you also will still have to provide an email for this as well. This is an entirely different email that we will be doing aside from that site update. And then for our form, you're going to get the title Patreon, and this will be a unique title for anybody who gives $10 or up, and you'll be given unlimited access to our player forums. Now, essentially, these with our Kickstarter, we're essentially going to be transferring our forums into you have to pay into it. And actually, Lay, do you want to go into some detail about that?
So, the forums in an MMO world can very quickly become a very toxic thing. For any of you who have been around the MMO space for any number of time and have followed games before launch, you'll notice, or you have noticed, that there's two different types of people on the forums. There are those who are simply trying to discourage anybody and everybody from enjoying their anticipation of a game. And then there are those that actually care about the game. We're there to talk about the game, nerd out, fantasize, go into theory crafting about everything, whatever the case may be. The second group is who we want. The second group is the group that's dedicated to the game. The group that's probably already given $10 at this point, or, you know, in a month or so, because they believe in this game. The other group, that first group, is a very toxic and unwanted group. They don't care about the game. They're not going to throw $10 at the forum so that they can come and troll everybody and the mother. So it's going to help us weed out the majority of those, understanding that we're still going to have to pay attention to the forums, and get rid of those that do pay the $10 anyways. We thank you for your contribution, but only paid the $10 so that they could get in there and attempt to discourage people or tell people that they're idiots or whatever the case may be. And that's the reason why we're using I guess we can call it a pay gate for our forums.
Right, but overall it's going to help ensure that the people who we want on our forums are going to be there, because these are the people who are essentially going to support the game overall and not just, like you said, discourage it or just throw, 1-minute suggestions at it.
Right, we don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry who stumbles across the website once a week to come in and give us suggestions for how we should do things. Right, we want feedback from the players who actually care about the game, who are already invested in the game itself.
All of our tiers, pretty much, if you were to give a higher amount, you'll obviously be able to get everything that goes down. So in the case of our $10, you're going to get the email updates about the game progress, you're going to get the forum title, you'll get unlimited access to the player forums, and also you'll get the $1 tier, which is our thanks and appreciation. Although with any amount you give, you're going to get our thanks and appreciation. But moving on to our next tier, which is $30, what the first point here is just you're going to be capable of submitting questions for question and answer sessions. And these are essentially questions that are going to be submitted on Reddit for live podcast. And I'll let you run these podcasts. What's your thought on this?
So generally, we have a very open and honest policy. You can go to the forums right now. We've been asked some pretty tough questions that most developers won't touch with a 5-year demo. We don't really care. We'll answer the question. These particular settings that we're talking about here for this $30 phase, these are more after the alpha start, after the beta start. These are the very specific questions, the very specific Q&As where we start going into detail. When you're talking about thousands of people asking questions, and there's really no way that we can get to all of the questions, what this allows people to do is have a chance to to see their questions heard, to have a chance to get their questions answered. Even at this point, there's still no guarantee that all questions will be answered. We will always do our best. But aside from sitting at a microphone or a computer for 12 hours, you know, there are limitations to what we can do. And this will provide the players, again, who are here, who believe in this, who have already contributed, to have more of a say than somebody who's kind of sitting out in the shadow, who really doesn't care either way what question's answered, or they may not even like the answer. If we took their question over somebody who had been here for 6 months or 2 years, who had put $500 down on a Kickstarter or through Patreon over the next 2-3 years, if we took that person who just barely heard about the game, who really didn't care, who just wanted to ask a question for the sake of asking a question, over the person who's been here for months, for years, that's a major insult. So this is a way for us to say, we value not just your money, we value you. And it's something we're pushing hardcore towards. Don't pay and ditch, stay and play, stay and help us build this game.
I can go ahead and answer one of those questions for the Q&A. Yes, there will be dragons.
Yes, there will be raids.
But then, of course, the second point for our $30 is going to be essentially you're going to get a copy of the live game at launch, plus 1 month of paid subscription. Now, one rule, throughout the different money amounts, there's going to be several opportunities where you're going to get more months. Like we have a 3-month subscription. That's already going to be prepaid for you if you donate that amount. You know, there's a 6-month, there's a 12-month, but these will not accumulate. So say if you were to donate up to the 3-month, you would not be able to come back down to the 3 months, get that other month, and get 4 months. The highest amount of months that you pay up towards is the amount of months you're going to get. So in this case, if you were to just go to $30, you're going to get 1 month, and that's actually pretty good. So, and you're also getting a copy of the live game, which is also very nice at $30. And then this is actually an amazing thing I've never seen before of any developer. What we're going to be doing is giving you direct links to a exe of game builds that you can run around and play in. But do know that these will be solo worlds, not linked to any servers, and these will be more likely in between alphas and betas when available. Would you guys like to elaborate on that?
Yes, some MMOs have released the character creator right before launch, and players like that, but it's not really enough, right? It doesn't give you a feel for the game. It doesn't let you know what the world is going to be like when you step into it. The EXE kind of gives you that feeling, like you're going to know this is how I move around, this is how it feels in combat, this is how it feels as I'm going through this content. Granted, in an EXE by yourself, it's not going to be the same content at all, but it should give you a general feeling, and it also allows you to give us feedback on it, right? You can tell us, hey, I got stuck on this rock that doesn't exist. There's a tree over here that I can walk right through. Little things like that, we can get feedback.
But it also just gives that great feel that players absolutely love when they're exploring, and also just getting the opportunity to play a little bit of the game before they get to really play the game when it goes to live launch. And also with the $30 tier, you're going to get everything on the previous. So that means you'll get everything from the $10 and the $1 as usual. And then going up to our next tier, which is the $50 tier, what you're going to be able to get is access to final closed beta events. Pretty standard. You're going to get exclusive in-game and forum title founder. So that means on the forum, you could be considered a founder, and in-game, you could be considered a founder. It's pretty nice. And then you also get 3 months paid subscription. Now, like I was saying back on the $30, this will not accumulate. So, you're going to get 3 months if you pay $50. You will only get 1 month if you pay $30. That's just how it's got to go. Any elaboration you guys want to do there?
I would like to just point out that all of these titles are Kickstarter exclusive. There will be different titles during the Patreon phase. All titles that you see in the Kickstarter are specific to Kickstarter itself.
Like I said, exclusive to Kickstarter. These titles will never come up again anywhere else. This will just be for the Kickstarter.
Correct.
Awesome. So definitely a good reason to donate if you definitely like exclusive stuff. And of course, with the $50, you'll get all the previous stuff, which is very nice indeed. So now we're moving up to our next tier, which is tier 70. And with this, you're going to get permanent access to Beta 3 until launch for duration, including a standing invite to all beta events. Now, could you guys possibly clarify what Beta 3 is?
So Beta 3, currently planned, is our first really large beta event. All of our testing phases were outlined by Wicked months ago to be very rigorous. We have quite a few testing phases, not just 5 or 6 like a lot of game companies like to do. Beta 3 was the one that we outlined to be right before the final alpha phase. And I know some people are thinking alpha, beta. Usually beta starts, alpha ends. It's not typically how it works. So beta 3 happens right before our final alpha phase. What this is going to do is it's going to take our game space where we utilize a couple hundred players and boost it up to a couple thousand players at the same time to begin pushing server loads on top of testing loads. Beta 3 will likely be the first time we start testing raids with their complexities, with their mechanics, with numerous amount of issues that could pop up from raiding. And so this is one of our milestone beta phases that we've already outlined.
Well, also with the $70, they're going to get access to an in-game 10-slot safe for their personal house and guild hall, and this will be 2 separate items that they'll be able to use. And this is essentially the safes are the bank system of the game. This is how you will store your items and be able to keep them at your personal locations. And also, this is actually pretty cool. You're going to get heirlooms that will be generated during your essential beta playtime that will carry into live launch. Now, would you guys like to clarify that just a little bit?
So heirlooms are simply items that they've got some history on them. They've got some minor statistical items that you'll be able to use as a player. This one specific is going to be a tier 1 heirloom. It might have an increase in run speed or an increase in overall damage output by like 1% or 0.5% or something. But essentially it fills a slot that you might not fill for quite a few tiers. It gives you an item as part of our appreciation for you coming, not just donating money, but as I said before, also showing up to the betas and testing our game, breaking it for us so that we can find and fix major issues. Well, even minor issues, but especially the major ones.
Yep, fixing the issues to overall make this an absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, we find beta testers to be very important to the entire process. And a lot of times beta players will ask, well, what do I get for it? You know, do I get a title? Do my... Always get the question, do my characters carry over? No, your characters do not carry over from beta. Instead, you get an heirloom to say, hey, thanks for participating. This is something that you can show off to other players. Say, yeah, I was there for that beta event. I was there. I was a part of it.
Right, I got to be a part of this amazing experience and get to help make this game amazing. And also, with that $70 amount, you're going to be able to get access, of course, to all the previous tier items. And so now we're moving up to the $90 amount, and this is actually pretty cool. You're going to get access to a permanent beta server once it goes essentially live. However, do note that this will be limited to the first 1,000 people that essentially give to the $90. Or any people who decide, hey, I'm not interested in doing this sort of access to the permanent beta server, they'll be able to have a process where they can waive the access, and it'll be given to the next person who donated these $90. So you can essentially waive the rights and let somebody else do it if you yourself are not interested in the beta. And there's a little potential to expand 1,000 people. Is that correct?
There is. It won't expand by too far. Obviously, we don't want the entire player base inside of the game beforehand. Most of them aren't testers anyway, so it's not like there's value to having everybody available to the game beforehand. The only reason you do open betas is for mass quantity server load stress tests, and nothing else is really coming out of the open betas. So you have to have everything locked down before then. What this live, or not live, but permanent beta test server allows us to do is it allows us to put highly qualified beta testers, and even some who can prove themselves, into the mix. By giving it a pay slot, we can take some who are maybe even qualified, not qualified, who are also going on to that live server. So we've got testers that we've already got set aside who are going on to this, as well as somebody can buy in and have access to the server as well. And when we say 1,000 people, it's everybody who donates $90 or more dollars, not just specifically into the $90 slot. So if you decide you wanted to donate $150 or $500 and get the big reward out of the $500 one, you're also getting access to be one of those first 1,000 people if you are one of the first 1,000 people.
And of course, you choose to participate in this permanent beta server. And then the next item I can see here is a 1-tier scaling relic heirloom, which will be essentially offset. It will be an off-slot jewelry that's going to be generated during your essential beta playtime that carries into live launch. And since obviously at that live launch you're going to be your character is going to be white, you'll have the heirlooms. You're going to start off at tier 1. Would you be able to elaborate just a little further? Like, just I know there's a little bit of a difference since we have the heirloom here, but we also have the heirlooms over in $70 as well.
Right. The difference between this one and the $70 heirlooms, the $70 heirloom is essentially going to be white gear value, right? Common gear value, the lowest value you can have as far as gear rarity goes, which in MMOs translates to equivalent power on the same level, or in our game on the same tier. The tier scaling relic, 1, is going to scale with you as you progress through the tiers. 2 is going to be we haven't decided yet, a green or a blue rarity level item, which gives it slightly more power. So this becomes something that's not just filling a slot, but it becomes something that's rather useful until you get into the higher tiers and you actually find an item that you really like. And maybe it's purple, or maybe it's gold, maybe it's a raid item that you finally replace it with, but it's a slot you don't have to worry about at all. And when you're done with it, as well as with the other heirloom item, you can hang these bad boys in your house or in your guild hall, or keep them as, I don't know if we're going to have jewelry level appearance slots, but if we do, you can even keep them on your character and use them as appearance items.
And then of course with that $90 amount, you're going to get access to all previous tier items. So you're going to not only you're going to get this 1 tier scaling relic heirloom, but you also get the other heirlooms, correct?
Correct.
We're going to move on to our $110 amount, and this is actually where it starts to get really cool. The first item here is going to be the invite access to alpha testing. Obviously, there will be limitations per alpha phase, and server limits will apply. But any elaboration you want to do there?
Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, we'll do alpha testing, obviously, and it'll be our first live testing on the server of the current builds. That said, we're not going to be able to push for 50,000 people on our first alpha test, right? So our first ones may be limited. They might be limited to 250. They might be limited to 2,500. Once we get to that phase, we'll have a number finalized, but these will be our first live testing phases on the server itself.
Also, with the $110 amount, you're going to get the exclusive Kickstarter in-game and forum title, either Dame or Duke, depending on which you choose. And then you also have access to 6 months of paid subscription. And like we were saying earlier, this will not accumulate with the others. So if you were to donate $110, you will not get access to the 3 months or the 1 month in our previous sets. You're just going to get 6 months. And then again, 6 months, half a year. That's a lot of time.
So the title, you're going to get both. You can use whichever one you want at any point in time.
And this will apply for all characters that a account chooses to have as well?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. So I can have a bunch of Dames and a bunch of Dukes if I wish.
I'll have the Duke of Earl. I mean, you got to.
So now we're going to move up to our $150 amount. At this point, able to get into our developer forum access to apply to posts exclusively with developers. Do note that, like all of our forums, this privilege can be revoked if abused. You'll get access to unique forum signature red outline, and I imagine this is the little signature that usually goes underneath somebody's name, correct? Or message for the most part?
Yes.
Awesome, and you'll be able to get that in red, so if you're a red fan, congratulations. And you will get a personal shout out and public thanks in the Sacrament podcast. And I would imagine this would be within certain episodes of the coming future for the Sacrament podcast, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And of course, with a $150 amount, you're going to get all previous tier items, except of course where limitations apply. All right, moving on down to $200. At this point, you're going to be able to have access to a unique form signature blue outline. So if you're interested in the color blue, there you go. And then I imagine, since of course you get all previous tier items, you'll be able to have access to the blue outline and the red outline, and you'll be able to switch those out as you wish, correct?
As you wish.
So if you're like someone who likes to be blue one day, red another, there you go. And you're going to have access to the exclusive Kickstarter in-game and forum title, Mediator to the Gods. You can throw it out as many characters as you wish, so all your characters can be mediators if they want to. And then you'll get 12 months of paid subscription. Of course, not cumulative with other paid subscriptions that we have on this, but then again, you're getting a year subscription. That's an amazing amount. And of course, access to all previous tier items. And now we have our $500 amount. And at this point, this is where it starts getting really amazing what you can actually get from us in terms of Kickstarter rewards. So at $500, you're going to have a unique form signature created by one of our concept artists. It's essentially your choice. However, this is going to require a little bit of contact information and minimum necessary communication. Because unfortunately, we're not mind readers, and we never want to be. We want to make sure that we're able to communicate with you and be able to get you the unique form signature that you would like. And then you're gonna be able to get some copies of signed digital print concept art by the artist. There will be a limitation of 100 for this, so be sure if you are definitely interested to throw down either 500 or a greater amount, and you'll be able to get access to that. And then this is where it's nice. You're going to be able to, there's only a couple of games I've ever seen offer this, and usually it's a very exclusive deal. But for us with this Kickstarter, if you are able to donate $500, you're going to be able to get the opportunity of a lifetime subscription membership. Would you have to elaborate on that a little bit, Way?
So the lifetime subscription is a dangerous model, right? Which is why we're approaching it the way we are. This $500 mark is the Kickstarter price point for the lifetime subscription. That said, let's say we had all 50,000 people who are going to play this game, knocking on wood. You know, that's what we've got estimated as the requirement to keep the game floating with some extra revenue to do things like R&D and whatnot. So let's say we have all 50,000 people who are playing our game and they all did a lifetime subscription. That's plenty of money on top of the fact that it doesn't consider the cash shop from the rest of the game. And the cash shop is filled with essentially all non-combat items. None of them will be relevant in combat. They won't give any boosts of any kind. They're all appearance items. You're not going to find potions for EXP or movement speed or anything crazy like that. It's all appearance items. And one thing that we know about the buy-to-play world, if a player is not subscribing, because we're gamers, they are probably pretty inclined to spend $10 or so a month on the cash shop for appearance items so they can, you know, dress up like however they want. Or I used to run around Rift as a farmer. This was before it went free to play. So I was still paying the sub, but I loved running around with my pitchfork and my straw hat and my farm outfit as a sorcerer. Is it called a sorcerer in I don't even remember what the class name was in Rift. It's been so long.
Of course, with the $500 amount, you're going to get access to all previous tier items, except, of course, where the limitations will apply. And so now we're going to move up to our $1,000 tier mark. And at this point, this is where it's going to get really interesting, but also it's going to get really limited. One of those being our lore writers and story writers are going to be able to create one of your character's backstories, obviously some game limitations, as essential lore books that can be randomly found. But with this, there's going to be a limit to about 30 people. So essentially, if you're one of the first 30 people who gives $1,000 or more, you're going to get this opportunity to have your story writers essentially create your character's backstory as a book that can be read in the world.
To clarify, I mean, if you want to write the story yourself, our writers will just make sure that it fits in with the game and fits in with our world. So if you personally want to write your backstory and have it put into a lore book, we are absolutely okay with that. I mean, the amount of creativity on this team is outstanding, and we love creativity from all sources. So if you want to write it yourself, we can have our writers just tweak it so that it fits within our world, as opposed to writing the whole thing themselves.
Right. It definitely helps us be able to get it in, but also it just allows you to have a little bit of a personal touch into it as well if you wish. But just note that this is limited to 30 people, so if you're interested, be sure to be one of those first 30 that hands either $1,000 or greater to our Kickstarter. And also, you get the opportunity to create an in-game NPC with unique storyline and reward, with names and story pending approval. And you're also going to want to, we're also limiting that to 30 people as well, just because we want to ensure that our guys aren't doing 5,000 NPCs. It'd be nice though if we got 5,000 NPCs, but for the most part, we're going to have to limit it down just so that way we're not overworking them. Since, of course, with Sacrament, we have a great amount of things we're doing. Story, we're planning on making as big and diverse as possible. And so then, you're also going to be getting the opportunity of sneak peeks at pre-builds every time we essentially include major updates, as noted by video content. So you're essentially, anytime we're going to do a big update, you're going to be one of the first people that gets the opportunity to have a little bit of a sneak peek into it before we essentially release it. And this has no limit, so it's not like only 30 people are going to get the opportunity to view it. Anybody who gives $1,000 or above is going to have the opportunity to view these sneak peeks. Of course, with all of our tier sets, all previous tier items, except where limitations apply, will be given to you. Alright, so now we move up into the big number, which is $10,000. Now, if you're someone who has this kind of money and you're definitely interested in donating it, first off, thank you. We highly appreciate it. That's an amazing amount of money. But it's also got an amazing amount of rewards as well. So if you give $10,000, you're going to be able to sit in on lore discussions and have an opportunity to help shape the history and maybe even future of Sacrament. However, with this, it's going to have some signed NDAs that will be required. And also, this will only be available to U.S. residents due to legal issues. Would you like to clarify on that a little way?
So with the legalities of it, there are certain countries out there that don't respect U.S. law, obviously, U.S. contract law. So that's clear and cut. And instead of trying to hire a legal team at this point to figure it all out, we just went with the safe path. And it's going to suck for some people, but it's a safe path. I don't see too many $10,000 plus backers coming fresh out of Kickstarter, so we weren't overly concerned with that aspect. As far as sitting in on the discussions, so this is going to be something that we're going to do over the internet. As we sit down to have these discussions, we will bring you into whatever we utilize. We have like 3 different VoIP software that we use, so it's going to vary depending on what it is that we find the most suitable for that time. GoToMeeting's a really good one. That's probably going to be the one that we can push out to random people and say that we know it's going to work. So that'll likely be where you'll be joining us for these discussions, and you will be able to have a say. You will be able to ask questions. The NDA is going to keep us from worrying too much about you spilling. I mean, of course, if you wanted to be that kind of a person, then there's really not much anybody can do aside from the whole court fun game thing.
In the end, it'll just be, hopefully we get those who are definitely interested. Because at this point, if you're giving $10,000, you're probably going to be wanting to sit in on some of these lore discussions and get your money's worth for it. And being able to have a great amount of involvement in the game. Also, with the $10,000, you're going to be able to name a notable NPC. Obviously, lore limitations will apply, that players will interact with for certain events. This could be for quests, merchants, maybe you're off an adventure and you find some random guy that has some great importance. Point is, you're going to be able to name that NPC. You also are going to get invites to private playtest of post-launch content. Essentially, this will be before the launch. Would you have to clarify that a little bit, Way?
So between live launch and expansions, if we sat down on our thumbs and released nothing, people would get bored. You could create the best game out there. There still has to be, some minor things added to the game for flavor, for flair. And I'm not talking about what some games do where they'll go and they'll change classes around just to mess with the players and make them try to relearn the class. That's nonsense. Not interested in that. If you want to metagame that way, we'll create a second server for you to metagame that way. It's not our goal. Instead, what we're talking about doing is adding an additional piece of story. Let's say players beat the entire story arc of our game within, say, 6 months, and we've still got another 3 months before the first expansion comes out. We have already planned a type of side story, not to continue the main story, but a piece of the main story that will help you gather more information and will give you more information that can make more sense when the expansion comes out. It's just more stuff to explore. And that's just one example. Obviously, not everybody's going to be at that point in rating, so it's not going to be isolated to one specific group of players. But in reality, everything is isolated to a specific group of players, and everybody tries to enjoy it regardless.
And with this, though, there is going to be a limit to 10 people. Obviously, at this point, though, if you're giving $10,000, we don't expect that many backers to be giving $10,000, but we will still have that limit just in case. Maybe it would be pretty cool if we got more than 10 people giving $10,000, but obviously we're going to have this limit. And then also with the 10-person limit is going to be an invite to a in-person launch party with the staff. And this will essentially be the party where we actually release the game live to everyone. And you'll be able to just be there with the staff as we do it. This will be definitely a great opportunity for us to be able to come out and just say thank you very much. Because obviously, if you're giving this amount of money, you definitely mean something to us because you're definitely throwing a lot of money towards our project.
I wish we could do a 50,000 player party. I'd love to thank everybody, shake their hand. I'd love to see their faces as the story begins to unfold from the first moment that they go into the live launch. But 50,000 people, I don't even know if that's possible. We'd have to be rock stars.
It'd have to be at a convention, but I just don't know if that'd be something very doable. But for the most part, I mean, 10 people at a launch party, and then the rest of the world will be able to just play the game as soon as we throw it out there. You also get exclusive Kickstarter in-game informed titles, Priest of the Seven and Blasphemer. So essentially you'll be able to have both of these available for your use, along with all the other titles as well, which is actually pretty cool.
Racking up those titles.
Right, indeed. Everyone loves titles. Of course, you're going to get all previous tier items, except of course where limitations apply. And then, if you in any way, shape, or form are interested in giving more than $10,001, we highly suggest contacting one of our founders. All of our contact information to contact them is on our website at www.sacramentgame.com. Any clarification you guys want to give on that?
No, we on Kickstarter we can't go over $10,000. So if you're interested in any more than that, contact us. We could talk about it. If you're a publisher looking to own all the rights to the game, sorry, but this game ain't for you.
Well, folks, there you have it. All of the Kickstarter rewards up to that $10,000 mark. All the amazing opportunities that you're going to be able to get from this essential Kickstarter based on the amount you choose to donate. Thank you again, gentlemen, for your input, and also thank you for your clarification. I'm Steel Deal.
I'm Laying them.
Kraive.
And we thank you very much for watching this week's episode of Sacrament Weekly In Depth. Hey everyone, Still here again. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button to subscribe for more videos in terms of our update and our in-depth videos. Also be sure to click on that Sacrament link to be able to go to our website and see all the amazing stuff we have going. And also be sure to click on any of those social media buttons to access our amazing and diverse social media outlets. I'm Still, and thanks for watching.